Hi, I'm Charlotte and this is Time Mama Tries to Read. So this is a week before Christmas, so I've got, I've only got I think 3 books left on my Christmas TBR that I was meant to read that I set out at the start of December. So I've done really well, seeing as Christmas books are not really something that I would typically be interested in. A lot of Christmas books are kind of quite light and a bit frivolous, and I tend to think of myself at least as a more serious reader, but what I'm trying to learn is that actually there's other genres that I can happily read as well. So I went to a very different place to the place I normally go when it comes to reading, and I read a cosy crime book this week. So this is Mystery in White by Jefferson, Farejeon, a Christmas crime story. And I was buddy reading this with the lovely Kate of her channel is Kate Howe, it's her name, and we've been talking about it over Voxer. So the thing that has become quite clear to us, which is really interesting, is we're coming from very different places initially. We don't have the same reading tastes, Kate and I, but I've come from a place where I don't know anything about cozy crime, and the book snob in me from the past would have thought that this was a bit light and silly and therefore not enjoyable. Kate is coming from the position of she's familiar with this genre. She's, you know, she's read, she's really into Victorian fiction, as you know, as one of the hosts of October, but she's read a lot of crime, cozy crime, mysteries, that kind of thing. So she's coming from an expert position, and I'm coming from the position as a novice. Despite me thinking I wouldn't like cozy crime, or that I wasn't sure whether I would like it, I really enjoyed reading this book. There was nothing about it that wasn't a pleasure to me. I did skim read the second half, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Kate, however, who I would have thought would have enjoyed this, because to me it was ticking all the boxes. To me it had, you know, as I think I said before, you had a train that had ground to a halt, you had murder, you had people locked in a house, you had all of the kind of stock characters that I would assume would come up in a cozy crime were there. But what Kate pointed out to me, which I never would have known if we hadn't done this together, which is quite cool, is that there was, you know, she said, well, there's no character development. The characters are all really stereotypical. You've got the sort of gutsy blonde, you've got the beautiful brunette, you've got a kind of handsome young man that people might be interested in. You've got a kind of Poirot type older man who's almost like a sage and just says the right thing at the right time. I mean, to me, that's what I thought cozy crime was about. So I was, you know, not batting an eyelid at any of that. But to Kate, they were just boring and they were not engaging, and she wanted more from them. And when she said that to me, I suddenly realised that my expectations of what crime fiction can deliver were very low, because I thought it was something kind of light. And I didn't anticipate character development because I didn't think that was the point of it. And now I'm sort of learning that there are crime books that can do both. So that was very interesting to me. So I was enjoying the book. Kate was saying, oh, I'm not sure. And it did, I'm very easily influenced. So it did kind of make me look at the book slightly differently in the second half. It also was just very, very silly. Like the actual plot points were just, you know, there's a scene where a character meets some strangers and doesn't recognise immediately who those strangers might be, given some of the details in the plot you've previously heard. And I was reading it thinking, come on, you must have figured out who these people are. And then the shock at the end of the chapter is him realising who these people are. So it was silly. And I kind of expected that there'd be an element where I'd be able to work out who the killers were based on clues. And I honestly, there's only 2 answers to this. Either I am very, very silly and couldn't work it out, or that wasn't the point. The point was that it was all revealed at the end. And I was a bit disappointed by that. So I kind of knew where it was going in the last few chapters, but really a lot of the sort of crucial stuff was kept back, I thought. And that sort of spoils it a little bit for me, because I thought half the fun was to be able to work it out. So, but actually I did enjoy it still, and I loved the imagery of the snow. I felt really Christmassy reading it. I really wanted to be in this old country house, and in it they talk about the fact that they're going to bring all of the nature in to decorate the house on Christmas Day. So they go and get holly and ivy, and I have gone and done the same. I don't know if you can see, but I've got some greenery. I've done it in the house as well, and it was really nice. So it put me in that kind of festive mood, despite there being murders. So yeah, I don't think this is the last cozy crime I'm going to read, and it was a pleasure to read with Kate, and she has suggested another book we're going to read together, and I've agreed. So another buddy read coming up in the new year, which is fun. I've also been digging into the Faber Book of Christmas, which is just absolutely beautiful, lovely design, and I am about halfway. I've been sort of dipping into it every now and then, but the funny thing I wanted to read to you about this was that the first half of it, well, the first sort of quarter of it, talks about contemporary Christmas, and actually there's quite a few times when various writers mention how people always seem to think that Christmas has gotten worse, it's not as good as it used to be, we're losing all our traditions, it's become so commercial. And they point out, a few different people point out, that this has just been going on forever, that people always think that last Christmas was better, that 10 years ago the Christmases were better, and that it's actually all in the mind. And Charles Dickens has a piece in here where he says, you know, if you actually just embrace it and just love it, then you will have the best Christmas ever. And I don't know, I kind of really valued that, because it's a bit like, you know, when people moan about something that's on TV, and they don't just moan about it sort of conversationally to you, they moan about it on Facebook or, you know, on some kind of social media platform. Oh, everybody's watching the X Factor, everything's X Factor this, X Factor that. Don't watch it. Scroll down if it bothers you. People who moan about other people having fun about something they don't get, I find that weird. Like, I don't find it weird that they don't like it. There's things that people do that I don't like. I don't mind people chatting to me about it in work, but when people go and just announce it to everybody, I just like, just don't pay attention to it. And there's a few people in this that they've published their letters. So I read you the Philip Larkin. There's another great one by George Bernard Shaw, who wrote Pygmalion, I forgot then, which became My Fair Lady, so the playwright. And he says, I think this is in a letter, so it's, oh no, he's written in Music in London, so this is a published work. Like all intelligent people, I greatly dislike Christmas. It revolts me. We must be drunken because it's Christmas. We must be insincerely generous. Let me stop you there, George Bernard Shaw. This is a theme. So Philip Larkin mentioned this. We must be insincerely generous to people we don't even like. No, you don't. No, you don't. You're probably not buying a single gift. The woman in your life is buying the gifts. I can almost guarantee it. You're not buying anything. And if you do buy something and you're not buying it sincerely, that, my friend, is down to you. So I just find it really, really funny that, and there are a few more that go on in the book, that some of it's men actually in this are genuinely moaning about Christmas when they do, I would imagine, 2% of the workload at Christmas. Yes, it just, little things, the bar humbug things in here did really make me laugh. And there's, on the more serious side of it, there is just some really interesting factual stuff in here. So there's stuff about where Christmas trees come from, why we use holly and ivy. Then they'll have a carol about the holly and the ivy. Then they'll go to sort of a letter about it. Then they'll have a short story. And they've even got little things that are, again, slightly more serious interspersed. So they've got an extract from somebody's diaries about what it was like in Auschwitz over the Christmas period. And I think there's going to be some stuff from 1914 in here as well. I'm pretty sure there'll be something about the football game that was played. Yes, so I loved it. I suppose you can't expect anything less from Faber, really. They're always good. Then I went and bought a book this week. Very naughty of me. And I've even started putting post-it notes in it. This is What It's Like to Be Alive by Deryn Rees Jones. So she is probably not massively heard of outside of the UK. I wouldn't have thought. Correct me if I'm wrong. She's a poet. Don't turn off. Poetry can be good. I know it's not for everybody, but you just haven't found your right poet if you haven't enjoyed poetry yet. I firmly believe that. So she's a great poet, and the collection I've got is called Burying the Wren, which she wrote after the death of her husband. He died, I believe it was in maybe his 40s, and it was cancer, and it was quite traumatic. They had children together. You can imagine the sort of situation that put her in. And Bearing the Wren is really beautiful. It's furious, it's angry. It reminds me a little bit of like a Boys for Pele, the Tori Amos album. It's that kind of anger and fury that you might expect, because I think Tori Amos recorded Boys for Pele after she had a miscarriage. So it's that kind of anger, but there's also a lot of life-giving stuff in it. And I selected a little bit of a poem. So there's the amazing poem that's in here is called Dogwoman, and it's after Paula Rego, the artist who does those kind of masculine-ish women paintings. I'll put a link to her paintings underneath. And Dogwoman is a painting where she's got a woman literally sort of crouched, sort of leaning forwards and barking, and it's very, very interesting stuff. So this whole poem is really in the very early aftermath of her husband's death, and one of the verses is, "This slow love as snow falls becomes elsewhere, the fierce heat at the core of ourselves. Dogs jumping up tangled in wildflowers, dogs in a waterfall, dogs at the beach, dogs reading books under African starlight, dog with her nose now pressed to the window, dog in the cold, dog in the dark, dogs crying and frisking the limitless reaches, dogs on their cliff edge not looking down, and love in the things that can't be unbroken, love in the skies where I cannot yet follow, love in these strange times, passage of souls." It's really good. So that leaves me now with, hopefully there'll be a video maybe in the next couple of weeks that will be from me and Sean, of Sean the Book Maniac, because, and I don't know, Ange read the book with us, but I'm not sure if we're doing a triple video, probably because I've talked so much in mine, there won't be room for anybody else's. Mine clocked 16 minutes of me jabbering about Country Dance by Margiad Evans. It's like an impromptu lecture. So I'm sorry now. Please feel free to skip to Sean's bit where he actually tells you what the book is about. Whereas my, like, yeah, it's ridiculous. I apologise now. But I'll be uploading it to my channel when he's finished very kindly editing it and putting it together, because I can't do that. I don't know how to. So we've got that coming up. And yes, so the last thing I was going to end with before I read you my token bit of Charles Christmas in Wales was the next two videos I'm going to do are going to be, one, it's going to be a wrap up. Obviously, I've got to do a 2018 wrap up. It's my first year on BookTube, and instead of doing a tag or following any kind of set of rules, I'm just going to pick the books I've really enjoyed. So when I put that video up, I would really love to hear about all the books you have really enjoyed, or if there's any of the ones on my list that you like too. Then, or any guesses in this video as to what I might pick, because at the minute I'm still not 100% sure what I'm going to put up there. And then the other video I'm going to do is going to be my New Year's one. And this is definitely something that I would invite anybody to join in with if they want to. So I'm going to do three things. One, I'm going to count up the amount of books I've read this year, and I'm going to set my new goal for next year. And it doesn't have to be more. I think that's the key thing. So if you felt you've read too many books this year, maybe you didn't enjoy so many, maybe you got in a reading slump, maybe you did a readathon and it just went really, really bad, just kind of maybe look at your total and maybe adjust it slightly to what you feel will work. Or if you feel like you want to make 2019 your goal, maybe do that. Maybe set it a little bit higher. The second reading thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a big book to read next year. So I'm talking a doorstopper, because this year I didn't read one. I looked at the books I've read and they've all been at the very most sort of at the end of 300 and something pages. I don't think anything has actually touched 400. So I love reading big books. I love getting lost in them. But I think my presence on BookTube has influenced this, because I'm concerned that if I get lost in a book, I could be reading it for months. I don't like to double read, although I have been recently. So then I've got nothing to upload. It's how I sort of feel about it. So, but I am going to pick a big book. I might even pick more than one. So if you have got a big book that you want to read, have a think. And then when I put that video up with my selection, I'd love it if you could comment what yours is going to be. And then the third thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change something about my book buying habits. This is partly to do with how many books are coming into my house, but there's a lot of different ways you could do it. So I'm going to make some suggestions now, and I'll make some more when I do the video. It could be something like you want to buy all secondhand books so that you've got an environmental sort of, you're lessening your environmental impact. Could be that. Could be the opposite. Could be you want to buy all new books so that you're giving your money to the publisher and furthering that writer's career. It could be that you want to only buy hardbacks, because then the expense of the hardback will mean that you only buy a book that you really, really want to read. It could be that you only buy new books. That sort of thing is what I'm thinking of. It could be that you only want to read electronically. Again, that could be an environment decision or a space-saving decision. So I'm going to think of one of my own things that I'm going to do, but it's going to involve book buying, and I will post that in my New Year's resolutions video. So let's end. Now, I've chosen a great scene. It's got books in it, and it's probably my favourite scene. And I was going to save it to the end, but I just love it too much. So the boys are out playing in the snow, and suddenly they hear something. And I'm going to skip a few pages to get to the next bit because it's fun. Oh, have I squished a spider? Oh, I think I squished a fly. Sorry, fly. Oops, that's not a good omen. Okay, let's go. And we ran down the garden with the snowballs in our arms towards the house, and smoke indeed was pouring out of the dining room, and the gong was bombolating, and Mrs. Prothero was announcing ruin like a town crier in Pompeii. This was better than all the cats in Wales standing on the wall in a row. We bounded into the house, laden with snowballs, and stopped at the open door of the smoke-filled room. Soon the fire engine came, and 3 tall men in helmets brought a hose into the house, and Mr. Prothero got out just in time before they turned it on. There's the picture. Nobody could have had a noisier Christmas Eve, and when the fireman turned off the hose and was standing in the wet, smoky room, Jim's aunt, Miss Prothero, came downstairs and peered in at them. Jim and I waited, very quietly, to hear what she would say to them. She said the right thing, always. She looked at the 3 tall firemen in their shining helmets, standing among the smoke and cinders and dissolving snowballs, and she said, "Would you like anything to read?" Love it. See you on Christmas Eve. Bye.